Last year, about a year ago at this time, we had the suicide prevention in Mount Vernon. And somebody asked me to sing a song. And immediately came to my mind this song that every time I sing it, I visualize Jesus telling me the lyrics to me in my times of trouble. So this, according to Dulce, became the official song of the suicide prevention. And I thank Carol King for that. When you're down in trouble and you need some helping hand, and nothing is going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to lighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes, I'll be there. You've got a friend. When the skies above you should turn dark and filled of clouds, and that old north wind begins to blow, keep your head together and call my name out loud. Soon you hear me knocking on your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yes, I'll be there. And good to know that you've got a friend when people can be so cold. They hurt you and desert you and take your soul if you let them. Oh, if you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you got to do is what? And I'll be there, yes, I'll be there. You've got a friend. You've got a friend. Now I'll continue with our suicide prevention, the 11th edition. Before we invite our next guest speaker, I just would like to bring another testimony. It's a real life case. We're gonna bring Emily this time.
Good morning, Emily.
Good morning.
Well, Emily, how your day has been?
It's been good. It's 8:26 in the morning, so it's early. But I think it's gonna be a good day.
Well, I'm very appreciative for you to collaborate with us in this work. And I'm sorry to touch this very delicate subject. However, we believe that you may help many other people who thinking of committing suicide, and may they will feel loved after they see your video. People when are in pain, many times they feel lonely and they may feel that they are burden for someone. And after your kind collaboration, you may tell them how much they are missed and how much pain they are when they committed suicide. So Emily, could you please describe a little bit your friend who had committed suicide?
When I was 16 years old, I had a good friend named Ryan Kemp who was the funniest person, always happy, always smiling. Literally, like, he was the type of person who you didn't even think could get mad. He was just always a happy kid. And, you know, he made everybody laugh. He was sweet. He was just all around a great guy. And I was so shocked when I found out. I got a phone call from my friend and she was like, I think that Ryan Kemp committed suicide. And I was like, no, he didn't. I was just talking to him last night. Like, we were just talking last night. He did not. I know he didn't. And I just honestly didn't even believe it because he was just such a happy, positive person. And yeah.
Can you please take me the day that you spoke to him prior he committed suicide?
Well, he was telling me that he was upset and I was trying to be there for him, but honestly, I didn't even know how upset he was. I thought that he was just like regularly upset like any other person would be. I didn't know he was even on the verge of suicide because I didn't even think about that. I mean, I did talk to him and I told him, I was like, you know, why don't you look into therapy or look into like talking to somebody to help you? And he was like, did it help you? And I was like, yeah, it helped me. And he was like, I should try. But
how many hours prior he's committed suicide?
I don't really know, but it was the same night that we texted.
Okay. So you guys text, didn't talk?
No, I called him that night, but when we were last speaking, we were texting.
I want you to take a second and take me at the moment you really acknowledged it, you really understood that he was gone.
Well, when I first found out, I obviously was in denial. I didn't think that he really did it because it just seemed out of character for him. But I saw like people later that day posting on their social media, like, rest in peace, Kemp, rest in peace, fly high, angel, all over social media. And even then I was like, this is not real. Like, I turned off my phone. I was like, I don't even believe this. I think it like really hit me when I went to therapy later, like the day after, because luckily I had therapy the day after, and she like handed me all the stages of grief and she like talked to me. She talked to me about what I should wear to the funeral and how I should cope with everything. So I was lucky to have her. And yeah, it really hit me then. And then I just cried in my bedroom the whole night.
Took how long for you to really be healed by this grief?
I mean, I don't really think that you could ever be fully healed from it. I mean, I'm okay now. I'm at peace with it. Now I don't cry every time I think about it, but I still think about him like twice a day.
Mm-hmm. It has been how long that he has passed?
Since like 2019.
Now we are going to There he is. I was looking for him. It's our friend Julio Carvalho. Julio Carvalho is the founder and co-director of the Spiritist Center Divine Light, located in Newark, New Jersey. He's also a member of the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, where he works actively in the Department of Public Speaking, providing training courses for Spiritist workers. Each year, he participates in the national and international congresses, representing the USSF, the United States Spiritist Federation, and the Tri-State Spiritist Federation. Professionally, he's a clinical licensed social worker with 25 years experience in public speaking in the field of mental health, group administration, and emotional well-being. He has worked for Trinitas Regional Medical Center, Union County Jail for 12 years, as a psychotherapist for Compassionate Care Hospice for 4 years, and now he's the owner of the Eclectic Solutions Counseling, an in-home therapy agency serving families and children in the New Jersey area. Academically, he attained a degree in stationary engineering, a bachelor degree in biology, and master degree in social worker at King University, right here in New Jersey. He has spoken in the many states in the U.S., and because he speaks 4 languages, he regularly attends speaking engagements abroad as well. He has been married for 16 years, and he has 2 children. So, my friends, he's going to talk about building resilience, overcoming challenges. So, let's welcome Julio Carvalho.
Good afternoon, my friends. Let's begin by wishing peace in our hearts. There is a legend of the bluebird. He lived in the forest with other animals. And one day, there was a fire. And all the animals ran out for their lives, including the bluebird. And these animals just stood there looking at the fire consuming the forest. And then this bluebird thought to himself, I cannot just stand here and watch everything we live for just be consumed by the flames. I have to do something about it. So he took flight and he began to look for a source of water. And then he found this small body of water. The minute that he looked at it, he flew as fast as he could. He dived into this little lake, got his wings wet, filled his little beak with water, and then he flew towards the fire. And as he approached the flames, he felt the heat. So he had to gain altitude. And from really up high, he shook his wings, opened his little beak, and one single droplet of water fell on the fire. He flew towards the lake again, delved in, got his wings wet, opened his little beak, flew towards the fire, felt the heat, gained altitude, and from really up high, he shook his wings, opened his little beak, and one single tiny droplet of water fell on the fire. And he kept flying as fast as he could. Meanwhile, all the other animals, they just stood there, shaking their neck from left to right, from left to right. And you know what they began to do? They began laughing. They were laughing so hard that they were on the floor. They got stomach cramps from laughing. Look at this nutty guy. He's trying to kill all their fire with one droplet of water. He has to be crazy. So they continued laughing and laughing. But the bird kept going anyway. And the gods who were watching his effort, they became so emotional with his perseverance, with his resilience, that they began to cry. And their tears became the rain. And the rain put out the fire. Obviously, this is just a metaphor. It didn't happen. But this bluebird teaches us so many good lessons. Lesson number 1. You achieve something great by doing something small every day. You don't achieve something great by doing something great. Whenever we look at someone that we label as a person with success, we only see the end product. We don't see all the hard work that took place behind closed curtains. They worked really hard. And these were small daily struggles that they overcame in order to achieve something great. And at times we want to give up because the results we're aiming for do not arrive when we want them to happen. You do your part constantly with perseverance and you achieve something great. At least that's what the bluebird teaches us. Second lesson from the bluebird is the fact that all those other animals were laughing at him. He looked at them, he saw them laughing on the floor, but what was his attitude? This bird teaches us something so powerful, and that is, if people talk very low of you, you're not going to get worse. If people talk very highly of you, you're not going to get better. You are who you are, and not other people's opinions. And unfortunately, how much do you allow the opinion of others to influence our emotions? The third lesson from the small bird is that he did his part in order to get the help. In religious terms, God helped those who help themselves. This is what we have been taught. This is what we have been told. And the question is, why? Why is it that the supreme intelligence of the universe only helps those who are helping themselves? Well, think for a moment about a teacher. A teacher who sees his student struggling to do his homework. The teacher's job is to guide the student in order for the student to develop his intellect. If the teacher actually looks at the student and feels sorry for him and rips the paper out of the student and actually do the homework for the student, is the teacher really helping the student? Absolutely not. If you're an employer and you have an employee and you do the job of the employee, are you helping your employee? Absolutely not. So the reason why we are helped only when we are helping ourselves, that's because when we are attempting to do something, we are gaining experience. Sometimes what we label as failures are nothing but learned opportunity. And if we are aware that this is a growth experience in which we're learning something valuable, we will keep trying until we get to the result. But in order for us to overcome these challenges, everything has to do with expectation. Our expectation shapes our attitude before any challenges we have in life. What do you expect of life? Some people expect life to be easy. It was told to them that life is easy. Life is nothing but a material pursuit. Your goal in life is to seek material wealth. Now, there is nothing wrong with seeking material wealth. As a matter of fact, it's a natural instinct that we have to look, to seek for material comfort. Have you tried to sleep on top of stones before? The summer is just over. Did anyone here went out to the woods and actually slept on the floor? It's horrible, isn't it? It could be fun just for 24 hours, but then you're just craving for your comfortable bed. No one taught you this. You naturally seek material comfort. Look at your dog, for example. You never taught your dog which is the most comfortable part of the house. The dog instinctively looks for whatever is more comfortable. He doesn't lie on stone. He doesn't lay on stones. He looks for material comfort. Anthropologists are scientists who study our evolution. And they say that we used to live in caves or up in the trees. Now, how come we're not still there? Well, that's because we naturally seek material comfort. The cave wasn't comfortable. Can you imagine sleep on top of a tree? That's not comfortable. So when we seek material wealth, we should not be guilty about it. This is a natural occurrence. It's a natural instinct. We want to seek material comfort, to sleep in the best bed as possible. However, when we lay all of our hopes thinking that material wealth will bring us happiness, that's where we misunderstand what life is all about. Because our material well-being is just one single aspect of our lives. And our lives are made up of many aspects. So if I was taught that life is easy, and all you have to do is to seek material wealth for you to enjoy happiness and infinite pleasure, I'm going to set myself up for failure. Especially if I don't have wealthy parents to attend to all of my material needs. If I believe that material wealth will lead me to happiness, I am seeking for the pleasure of the senses. Anything that brings me a chemical rush of dopamine, that's what I'm looking for. The pleasure chemical. It's a neurotransmitter that gives us the sensation that we are feeling good. But if I don't have the means to feel good, then what is the solution to my problem? Well, suicide. There's nothing else. I look around and I see all the people who have the things I crave. Their happiness makes my unhappiness even more unbearable. For that young mind, suicide, unfortunately, it's a solution. It's always a distorted solution. And as I research what's going on in our universities, I worry to the bone that even religious teenagers, those who were brought up in Catholicism, Protestantism, they go into universities today to be indoctrinated. There is no such a thing as a supreme intelligence. I'm not saying it happens everywhere, but statistics point out that those who attend college have a tendency to discredit spirituality altogether. And as a result, when you don't have anything to fall on, when you are going through your troublesome, your challenges, you would think that suicide is a way out. And it is never a way out. This is a serious matter. We have to be extremely careful how our children are being raised in the school system. It happens, unfortunately, more than you think. And for those who think that life is easy, what's going to happen? They will not prepare for it. They will be unprepared to face the challenges of life. Has anyone here run a marathon before? What's your attitude before you run? Is a marathon hard or easy? If you expect the marathon to be easy, what's going to be your attitude? You're not going to prepare for it. If it's 6 months from now, tomorrow you wake up and you just watch TV as usual. Another month passed by, you're just watching TV. Maybe 2 months from the race, you're just watching some other people running. And then a week before the race, you begin running here and there. And when the actual race comes, you're laughing for the first lap. On the second lap, you're very serious about it. On the third lap, you're probably crying. On the fourth lap, on the fourth mile, you'll be quitting the race. Our attitude shapes how we're going to confront the problem. And our attitude is directly linked to our expectation. Do we expect life to be hard or easy? That's something that we should instill in the children from the get-go. This is why education is so important. Not necessarily instruction. Instruction is a job for the teachers. What is to instruct someone? To teach them how to add and subtract. To teach them how to speak, how to write verbs and nouns, adjectives. Geography, biology, chemistry, physics. That's instruction. Education is the set of habits you instill in your child from the get-go. And from the get-go, if I'm doing everything for my children, I am giving them the notion that life is easy. They play around with their toys, and they leave their room all messy. And you go ahead and you fix the room. What is the value I'm teaching to my child? Life is easy. You mess it up, someone will clean it for you. You step into the room and it's all over the place. They finish eating, they don't pick up their plate and take to the kitchen. I'm doing everything for them. I am instilling that child the concept that when you ask, you shall receive. And as a result, when that child grows, they expect the teacher to attend to their needs. And when they go to the workforce, the attitude is terrible. They walk all sloppy. They look very disinterested in the job, and the employer can tell from the get-go if this is going to be a good or bad employee. Just from the interview itself. At times you hear people complaining that they can't get a job, but look at their attitude during an interview. Have you ever heard about how firm you should shook your employer's hand in an interview? Why is that? Because you want to convey the message that you are very serious about your attitude. The way you walk into that room tells the employer how serious you are about getting this job. But if from the get-go, when he's 3 years old, and I'm allowing him to walk in any shape he wants, I allow him to say anything he wants, I'm not preparing that child for life. And as a result, that child has the concept that life is very easy. So when a teenager commits suicide, which definitely breaks my heart, I wonder what kind of lessons this child learned at his house. Maybe the parents were able to afford the best instruction. I know we use the word education, but the word education is not necessarily what happens in the school system. They could pay excellent school for the child's education. However, at home, what is the child receiving? Maybe the values of, I ask and it should be given to me. As a result, that child steps into adulthood with no preparedness whatsoever for life's challenges. And as a result, that will lead to depression because things are not going my way. There are so many studies why people get depressed. Now you might ask, what's the link between depression and suicide? Well, there are many reasons why people get depressed, and there are many reasons why people commit suicide. But there's one thing in common with people who commit suicide. They all want to end the pain. The pain has become so unbearable that they say to themselves, this is it, I can't take it anymore. What were the paths that led them to suicide? Many, many reasons. But they're all trying to run away. And since that is the common reason why people want to take their lives away, Allan Kardec, the codifier of the Spiritist philosophy, had the brilliance to ask this question in the Spirit's book. What is the common sentiment? What is the common feeling of those who committed suicide? And the answer is disappointment. Why is it disappointment? Well, it's disappointment because their expectation of those who committed suicide was to be free of the pain. But then what they found out is that they only destroy the machine, but the driver is 100% alive. But now, the pain they're trying to run away from, it's intensified because they realized I was supposed to solve this. Not only I didn't, but I made it worse for myself. So it doesn't matter the reason why they committed suicide. All of them, they will feel disappointment. But each person on the other side of our physical existence will be judged according to their intentions, to their deeds, to what was going on. But one common thing among them all, disappointment. So if they are unprepared and they will feel depressed, they want to feel nothing. And then they run away. But scientists in the neurological and also in the psychological field of the sciences try to understand suicide, depression from a biological point of view. And there are so many interesting studies. And I'm going to tell a few of you so you'll understand how they think. There is this very famous biologist. His name is Robert Sapolsky. And he actually lived with baboons for 21 years. This man, when he was a child, he dreamed of sleeping with gorillas. At 12 years old, he was writing to primatologists. And then when he went to college, he got an internship to live in Kenya with the baboons. And he spent 21 years. Can you imagine this man's dedication? And then what he noticed, that baboons are very much like us. I mean, the correct way to say this is that we are very much like baboons. Because our biological machine came from the baboons, according to evolution. And in the baboon society, you have a social hierarchy. Do we have a social hierarchy? Yes, we do. And in the baboons, you have the chief, and the second man, the third man, the fourth man, the fifth man, all the way to the last guy. And that's the last guy down in the tree. And this is what he did. He wanted to find out which of those baboons experienced more stress. So after noticing their behaviors, then he would shoot them with a tranquilizer, draw blood, and measure the stress hormone. What hormone is that? Cortisol. When you see some of these ads in the newspaper or on TV, it says that cortisol leads to people gaining weight. What leads to people to gain weight is exactly what we did here 20 minutes ago. That's what leads us to gain weight. There are some people, they love to create excuses for not losing weight. Cortisol. I mean, if stress alone would make people gain weight, you can go one of those, undeveloped countries in Africa where people are super stressed. How come they're not happy? Well, that's because the environmental condition,
They don't eat.
it's not appropriate for them to gain weight, although their stress levels are very high. But that's what you see on TV. Your cortisol level is high, this is why your weight is also high. So this man, he shot the baboons, gave them tranquilizers, draw blood, and he noticed that two individuals in the social hierarchy had more stress. The guy all the way at the top and the guy all the way at the bottom. Now, why was the guy all the way at the top, the baboon, at the top of the social hierarchy, more stressed? Well, that's because he had to pay attention to those who are under him, who are trying to get his position. So he feared for those who are under him, who are ambitious enough to take his position away. By being the top of the chain of the social hierarchy, he had the right to have sex with any other female baboons first. He had the right to the shade. He had the right to the food first before anyone else. So it was a position to be envied by. Now, the guy all the way at the bottom, the last baboon, what he noticed was something very interesting. He got down as if he was literally being stepped upon all the other baboons, which he wasn't physically, but psychologically he was. So he got into a natural fetal position. Other scientists looking at Mr. Roberts' study noticed that that last baboon was going through a period of depression. His depression was due to the fact that he was the last in the hierarchy, and because he felt that he could not do anything about it, he felt down. He literally was physically down in a fetal position. This is very interesting from a psychological point of view, because when you ask someone how they're feeling, they say, I'm feeling down. They say it metaphorically, psychologically, but the baboons, they do physically. And if these individuals who are depressed go into their bedroom, they also crawl in a fetal position and they feel down. So this was evidence that environmental factors play a much larger role on the way we feel than our genetic makeup. Unfortunately, when you hear on TV the pharmaceutical companies selling their products, you are indoctrinated to believe that if you are depressed, it means you have a chemical imbalance. Well, if I was indoctrinated to believe that the reason why I have depression is due to my chemical imbalance, what's the solution? Well, I want to get to my chemical balance. I want to have a chemical balance. What's the chemical imbalance they're talking about? Well, in our brain, we have neurons. These are cells, nerve cells, that communicate with one another. The reason we see, the reason we speak, we walk, it's because neurons are communicating with one another. How neurons communicate with one another? Through neurotransmitters. So the belief that someone is depressed because they have a chemical imbalance, it's because the scientists imply that your serotonin level is low. Let me repeat that. People who are depressed, according to the pharmaceutical industry, their serotonin level is low. So then you would take a SSRI medication. What is a SSRI medication? It's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's a medication that you take that will prevent the neuron from absorbing the neurotransmitter. Since there is not enough serotonin between the synapses, between one neuron and the other, you need to stop them from being absorbed. Therefore, there's more serotonin between the neurons. Therefore, you will not feel depressed. How much scientific evidence there is for this? Zero. There is no way to measure someone's serotonin level. There is no way that you can draw blood from your brain and actually measure if you have low or high serotonin level. Some of the ways they can measure, it's actually in our gut. As a matter of fact, the latest research on this says that 95% of the serotonin that we have in our body is produced in our gut. So now there's this gigantic link between depression and what we eat. After all this food we ate, should we be depressed or very happy? I mean, the soup I ate was so hot that I almost felt coming here the next Sunday just to be able to eat it. That's how hot it was, that soup. And that might explain why is it that in the US, out of 4 women, 1 is on a depression medication. Out of 5 men, 1 is on depression medication. Because the diet is very poor. People put stuff into their stomach, but they do not nourish their bodies. 2 different things. Putting stuff in our stomach, it's eating a hamburger. It's pizza, ice cream. We love it, but it's not nourishing our body. our cells are still starving after you put that stuff in your stomach. This is why you're quickly hungry about an hour or so, because your cells have not been fed. I know there was stuff that went through your mouth, went through your stomach, but has no nutrient value. And as a result, your cells are still starving. And because of that, less serotonin, and as a result, depression. It's a theory to be considered, obviously, but there is no single factor that produces depression. It's a whole combination of factors that lead someone to feel depressed. Other therapists would say that the patients that had been seen by them were only able to get out of depression with cardiovascular exercises, running, walking. And when we think about our social life past, that we walked everywhere, did these people have any time for depression? Did they? They walked and ran everywhere they went to because, you had to be rich to have a horse. So they walked everywhere. There is a scene in that movie, Back to the Future 3. Remember there was a scene in which he was holding a cup of whiskey. And he never drank the whiskey, but he kept telling stories about the future. And everybody at the bar doubted him about the things he was saying about the future. And then one of the guys asked him, what do you do for fun in the future? And he says, in the future, we run for fun. And they went like this, are you crazy? In the future, you run for fun? Because at that time, they had to go walking and running everywhere. This was not for fun, it was an obligation. And as a result, if we go back to the medical records, it will be very interesting to find out how many people were depressed back then. It's interesting that we have so much surplus of everything. In relevance to material wealth, we've never been better. We never grew older. We never had so much, despite of what you see on TV. We're living one of the best times in our era as human beings. Yet the quality of our existence seems to have diminished significantly. And why? Well, that gives us a very powerful clue that material wealth alone is not a solution to our problems. Those who believe and understand that life is hard, then their expectation and attitude is completely different. Because when you think life is hard, what do? Well, you prepare for it. You get ready. And once you get ready, you're able to finish your objectives, what you aim. You're able to avoid despair. So for someone that has to run a marathon, if it's from 6 months from now, what they will be doing if they believe it's very hard? Well, tomorrow they're going to wake up early and they will begin to train. They will probably walk for a mile. On the following day, 1.5 miles. On the following day, they will walk 2 miles. And then on the third day, they might be running 0.5 mile and then just walking the other 2 miles. Gradually, but constantly increasing the amount of resilience until they are walking 26 miles. They do a combination of walking and running 26 miles up until the point they are running 26 miles. And obviously, they might not finish the race on first, second, or third, but they will conclude the race, which will give them the certainty that when I set my mind for something, I can accomplish. And the same applies for everything in life. When we believe that it's hard, then we're going to prepare for it. And that's what the Spiritist philosophy do for us. The Spiritist philosophy does not sugarcoat our existence. It tells us right in our lap, it's hard, suck it up, and move forward. It always amazes me whenever I am in trouble and I open one of those little books to find inspiration. Emmanuel, the Spiritist mentor, he always comes with a baseball bat and he hits me in the head. Wake up! If I feel lazy, work harder. If my boss upset me, like years before, forgive your boss. Understand him. He has more concerns than you do. If you hate someone, forgive. He never gives you any reasons for you to feel the way you're feeling. So in the Spirit's book, on question 132, Allan Kardec asked the question that we should all reflect upon from time to time, so we can put our navigation system according to the map of our existence. And the question is, what is the objective of reincarnation? It's a very powerful question with the utmost important answer. If I believe that the objective of my incarnation is to work, retire and travel the world, am I fulfilling my purpose? And isn't that what people do? They work to get to 65 and then travel the world. I worked in the jail system for 12 years. And some of these correctional officers, all they did, was to sit around, to watch the inmates' behavior. That's what they were there for, to keep the place safe. And then on lunchtime, they ordered the most poisonous food that they could order from. Chinese food. Have you wondered why they prepare Chinese food so fast? Well, that's because it's already pre-cooked. And why does it go stale? Well, it doesn't go stale because they put a lot of salt in the food. Because salt conserves the food. Didn't Jesus say that you are the salt of the earth? Have you ever heard that passage before? You are the salt of the earth. What does that mean? We're here to conserve the message, so you would not go wasted. So in Chinese stores, they put a lot of salt in their food, and they order the egg drop soup as well. And to top it all, a Diet Coke. And then they gain so much weight, waiting for 55 years old, because there they retire 10 years prior to 65, because it's considered a highly stressful job. It is very stressful, not because of the inmates, it's because themselves. They fought so hard against one another. All the jealousy that went around and the gossips. People sometimes say, I love my job. It's the people there that I hate. You hear that a lot, unfortunately. And it's very sad to hear this, because you spend 8 hours of your life with these people. And if you hate them, that means you hate a third of your life. Imagine what a waste of life to be feeling these emotions for 8 hours per day. And as a result, when they retired, within a week they died of a heart attack. And then they call me, and they used to call everybody else, and then they would say, in a very resentful way, this job killed him. It wasn't the job. It was the diet. It was the lifestyle, not the job necessarily. They had the entire time to read. Imagine the amount of knowledge you could gain by having all the time to read and set a good examples for the inmate to actually begin reading as well. So it's not the job. It was the lifestyle. So what is the objective of your incarnation? Well, to experience material pleasure. If this is what I have in my mind, then my entire navigation system is completely wrong. It's going to take me to the wrong destination. But what is the answer that the highly evolved spirits gave Allan Kardec? The objective of our incarnation is to achieve perfection. For some people, it's an expiation. For other people, it's a mission. How do we achieve perfection? We achieve perfection by bettering ourselves. So that makes this planet a school. So what are we? We are students in the school of life. And what is the objective of a school? To teach. The objective of the student? To learn. So if I begin any school, and my expectation of the school is for me to have fun, to join my friends, waste time, am I going to be a good student? No. I will fail school. And as a result, I'll fail life. because I need school in order for me to have a good job, so I could have good money to have a secure financial life. So school would not work for me. If I'm aware that I'm there to learn and school is there to teach, everything changes. My attitude changes. So that's what we learned from question 132. That we are students of life, and our objective is to achieve perfection. For some people it's expiation, for other people is a mission. What is an expiation? The process to get rid of stuff, moral garbage, moral debts that we have from previous existences. What is a mission? A mission is a signed contract that you have with yourself to be a better version of yourself. This is why we're here. And if I'm fully aware of that, any blows that I get, I'll be able to sustain it because I'm constantly preparing myself. The title of our topic is Building Resilience and Overcoming Challenge. What is resilience? Resilience is the ability of an object or a system to receive a blow, and after a while it comes back to the original position. That's resilience. So we develop resilience by coming back to our original self after we get a blow. Life is hard. You're going to feel down. But then it's your obligation to pick yourself up and continue. And where would you find the will to pick yourself up? Because you have the certainty that life is a school and these are lessons. I've read a very expert on this subject, and then he concluded his lesson by saying, I don't believe that things happen for the best. But I do believe that we can make the best of things that happen. Well, that's because he doesn't know what we know, which is that we are an immortal soul. This is nothing but a car that we're driving through the roads of life. And the map, we have it in our hands. The Spiritist philosophy. There are many maps that can take people to the same destination. However, we prefer this map just because it quenches our thirst for knowledge. I love being Spiritist because it gives me so much information. That doesn't make me a better individual, better than all individuals. It makes me a more responsible individual, meaning I have more abilities to respond to certain things that happened in my life. And that builds my personal resilience. The more we read, the more we live, the more blows we get, and the more we stand up, it makes us tougher. It makes us stronger. And it becomes resilience 2.0. I don't come back to my original state. I am a better version of myself than I was previously to the blow. And then you bless the blow. This is why Christ said, blessed are the afflicted. Because if you understand this, after you get afflicted, you are a better version of yourself after the affliction. But this can only work if we get the knowledge. By not understanding, once we get the blow, we stay on the floor. Camilo, who is the spiritual guide for Raul Teixeira, someone that we respect very much in the Spiritist movement, he said, if somebody blows you, if life gives you a punch, fall down at the Spiritist Center, because there will be people to pick you up afterwards. But if you get a punch and you stay down at your house, you will stay on the floor. This highly concerns me because when the pandemic came, people were getting blows at home. Some of my friends had the courage to tell me, you know, Julio, now that I'm home and we're all closed down, I'm going to rewatch the 3 karate movies. Karate Kid 1, Karate 2, Karate Kid 2, Karate Kid 3. And then I asked him, what you going to do after you watch those 3 movies? Then I'm going to watch Cobra Kai. What's Cobra Kai? That's the series of the Karate Kids. What about that series that you told me last week? Oh, the Pablo Escobar series? Yes. Are you going to watch that? I've watched it all. So how many episodes have you watched? Well, each season has 15 episodes for 1 hour. So that's 15 hours of one episode. If there are 5 episodes, just analyze the amount of time this man utilized in watching the Pablo Escobar series. What kind of information he was feeding his mind with watching the Pablo Escobar series? Lots of killing, lots of fighting, lots of betrayal, lots of cocaine. What am I feeding my mind with? Lots of poison. It's so much poison. And then here comes a blow of life. I'm not going to call it a blow. I'm not going to call it a baseball bat. I'm going to call it, just a small match thrown by life, and this guy will be on the floor because he has no resistance whatsoever, any moral resistance to sustain a blow. Sometimes you see people who are engaged in religious activity superficially, and as a result, they have no spiritual resistance. Anything happens to them, they get into a state of despair. The little that they know goes out the window. They tell me, I do not have the time. What do you mean you don't have the time? Well, I got a message here from the front door. Let's see how long it take us to build our resilience by first reading. Here is the experiment. How many minutes do we have in a day? 1,440 minutes. 24 hours. We sleep 8 hours. We work another 8 hours. What do we do with the other third of the day, which is another 8 hours? Let's say you take 3 hours to eat, sleep, another hour to travel to your job, so you have 4 hours left. 4 hours. 4 times 6 is 240 minutes. 240 minutes we have extra every day. Let's see how long it takes us to read this. In the presence of obstacles, do your best and keep going forward. We will always upset someone as much as someone can upset us. In the same way that everybody cannot live in the same place, not everyone can share the same ideas. Never scream, exploding with rage or anger. Never give in, but work. After overcoming a problem, do expect more to come. A mistake teaches us the right way to be followed as much as failure shows us the way to safety. Any achievement is accomplished slowly but surely. On days when nothing goes right, do not get angry nor blame anyone, but bear in mind that we have to move forward and return to the right track. He who searches the goodness will certainly suffer attacks from evil. Sow goodness benefiting everything and everyone by using your best resources, recognizing that if in terms of harvest God expects time from men, then men must surrender time for God. 1 minute and 15 seconds. How much time we said we have available per day? 4 hours? If this goes into Pablo Escobar series, and then someone at my wife's job looked at her differently, I'll get jealous. And if that emotion is not controlled, like Peter showed us before, that jealous will actually become an obsession. I'll probably believe that she is betraying me. And as a result, that could lead to depression or some sort of crazy outcome like killing my wife. Unfortunately, I saw much of that when I was there for 12 years in prison. And in the book, Life Rights by Hilario Silvia, he tells the story of this man who went crazy with jealousy over his wife. The lady was beautiful, she was gorgeous, but she was faithful to him. But because he had no moral resistance, no resilience, he fed his mind with all this cultural garbage every day from the programs he was watching on TV. He allowed jealousy to get the best of him, and he actually committed suicide. He couldn't control her. She was not cheating on him, but she did not want to be controlled, because nobody likes to be controlled. We are born free, and when anyone takes our freedom away, that person actually pushes us away from them, which is the opposite of what they want. They want us to be closer to them, but with jealousy, we're pushed away. So he committed suicide. He went through so much pain in the afterlife because he realized that he was still alive and the problems were the same. But he was in a region of the spiritual plane that he could not see his wife. And he thought that his suffering would be forever. And you know why? Because in the spiritual plane, depending on our spiritual condition, we lose track of time. And now suffering seems to be forever. But one day he was actually rescued. After he expurged, he expiated, which means he removed all the jealousy away from him. He finally recognized that he should not allow himself to take his wife's freedom away. He was taken to a place of help. And then after a while, he was able to visit his wife again. He was anxious to see her again, but little did he know the surprise he will find. He was at his wife's house. Obviously, she was with another man, but he couldn't recognize her. You know why? She was eating Chinese food all those years. As a result, she became humongous. You know what? When you mistreat your body with all those chemicals, you bombard your liver. Your liver is involved in more than 200 organic functions in your life. You want to have beautiful skin? Take care of your liver. You want to have good hair? Take care of your liver. She didn't do either. All that food made her humongous. Her hair fell out. She looked so ugly. And now his suffering began. Because he looked at this woman and said to himself, I killed myself because of this? And then he went to a real depression. Imagine that. That's real suffering, isn't it? No resilience. Didn't prepare himself. 1 minute and 15 seconds. What do we do here when we come every week? Are we here for the passes? Are we here to get the magnetized water? Is that the only reason why we come here? No. We come here to absorb the lessons given in the studies, given the lectures, so we can build resilience. The knowledge that everything happens for our spiritual growth. You do everything you can that is under your capability. And if the result is not what you aimed for, either you persevere and you say to yourself, well, this was not meant for me. If you have given your best and the result is not what you wanted, maybe it was not for you. But if this is the lack of your effort, continue to persevere, because success is the result of practice and patience. Practice and patience. You remain calm and you keep repeating whatever you're doing in a better way. Then you achieve it. But without resilience, anything can become unsurmountable, and you're not going to overcome your challenges. Those who go through the hardship of losing someone, one of the reasons why people become truly depressed. Are they depressed because of a chemical reaction? No, they are not. Is it because their serotonin level is imbalanced? No, it's not. They're going through depression for something that is very normal. When you lose sight of someone that you love, you're going to feel bad. You're going to miss that person physically. Even if you are a spiritist, physically you don't see that individual in front of you. So there is an emotional attachment to that person that is no longer fed the same way. The spiritist knowledge will help us to avoid despair because we know that person is living. We know that person exists, and we eventually will see that person, even in our dreams or when we return to the spiritual life ourselves. There is the story of this mom who lost her son, and she became so desperate that every day she woke up convincing herself that her son was still alive. So she would prepare his breakfast, prepare his lunchbox, and then she would take his lunchbox to the school bus stop, waiting for the school bus to come. Obviously, the school bus would just drive by because there was no kid waiting, just her with the lunch bag. Then she would return home and realize, this happened for real. And then she would begin to cry, and she would spend the entire day very depressed, and then she would sleep in his room. And everything was left untouched. All the toys, all his clothes, everything was there. And every day she would repeat the same scene. Until one day, she was so depressed, so sad, that even her husband could not get her to leave her boy's room. So she fell asleep. And in this sleep, she got herself out of her body, and she saw herself in the spiritual plane. And there, all these kids were playing. But they were not running around, but rather they were floating around. Instinctively, she looked for her son. Where was he? He wasn't there. And then she felt this touch lightly on her back. She turned around. He was her son. And she got down on her knees, hugged him very tightly, but she noticed this indifference from him. So she looked at him and said, "Son, why is it that you're not playing with your friends?" And he said, "Mommy, you have been crying so much, tears of despair, that your tears have made my wings so wet that I cannot fly with my friends." She fell back on her body. She woke up and she realized all those tears of despair were causing harm to her son. Where is the resilience in this? If that's what you are suffering for, if you, quote unquote, lost your son, if this is what causes your depression, become aware, gain the knowledge that your despair is harming your son. You're suffering this much because you love him. If that's the reason, then, out of love, you make the sacrifice to keep moving forward with your life. Because when we love someone, we want the best for them. Imagine if your son was looking at you in this state of desperation, what he would feel. He would feel bad. Do you want your son to feel bad? Obviously not. So when you give people the reason why they should overcome their pain, then they'll be able to strive and to gain all the strength that they can to keep moving forward. One of the responsibilities I had as a hospice worker was to talk to people who recently lost someone that they care so much. And it was very difficult for them, especially if they spent lots of years with their partner. Sometimes they spend 60 years, 65 years. How do you cope with this? How do you get out of depression when you just lost your wife of 65 years of marriage? What do you say? What knowledge do you give that person for them to overcome the pain? Well, love. If you love your wife so much as you tell me, do you think that if you were the one who were actually dead and she was here alive, that she would suffer a lot, probably more than you? And he would say, yes, that is true. Out of the both of you, who is stronger when it comes to emotional pain? He would say, I am. There you go, you got your answer. See it as if you staying here and her going first is a sacrifice of love that you're making for her. Because you care so much for her, you do not want her to experience the pain you're feeling right now. And because you're doing this out of sacrifice of love, you should be able to cope it. The individual got a reason why he should have resilience to move forward, to overcome his challenge. My friends, time is very limited, and we can go on because there are many reasons why people feel depressed and not with enough resilience. But you build your resilience with knowledge. That's what the Spiritist philosophy gives us. You gain the knowledge, you go through practice, and then out of practice, you gain more knowledge. And that builds your resilience. Your spiritual muscles will get very tough. When we watch all this garbage on TV, we are poisoning our minds. We are becoming spiritually weak. We have no spiritual immunity for challenges. But when we feed our minds on a weekly basis, when you wake up and you read something like this, you go take a shower thinking of what you just read, you drive to work thinking of this content, you are building resilience. You're preparing yourself for the blow. And when it comes, it might shake you, but it does not throw you out on the floor. And that way you keep becoming stronger, stronger, and stronger. The Spiritist philosophy teaches us that all experiences are here to help us to develop spiritually. Life is not against us. God is not against us. It's only our ignorance that works against us. If we replace ignorance with knowledge of what life is all about, then we'll be able to have all the tools we need to overcome the challenges. Keep in mind that only rough seas make good sailors. If the seas of your life is shaking all over the place, keep cool. Get your navigation system. Read. And you should arrive at the port of peace. What is peace? Peace is the fulfillment of our obligation. Peace might not immediately lead us to happiness. Peace will give us the sensation that we are on the right path. We can experience relatively happiness, but peace we can experience immediately. If you have been offended, forgive. If there is someone against you, forgive. Keep moving forward, because you'll be fulfilling the obligation to become a better version of yourself. And peace should be yours. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Julio. Thank you so much for this amazing lecture. And we are almost there. But now we still have some time to spend with the questions and answers. And the questions is open to everyone. Anyone that have any questions regarding what was exposed here today, please, you can just raise your hand. I'll take the microphone to you. You can even ask the question in Portuguese. And while our responders will answer the question, you can write the next question if somewhere else has any question, okay? Every question is very welcome. So we already have one question, right? No? Oh, she was just stretching, okay. All right. And
whoever wants to write, they have big
we're gonna invite, right, yeah, if you want to write your question, Temis and Laudiene will have a little piece of paper for you. We're going to invite Marcelo Cabral, our fellow spiritist from the SIR, the Spiritist Society of Bridgeport in Connecticut. We're gonna suck a little bit more of Julio's blood. We're gonna invite him to answer questions too. And the questions will not be, if you due to our time, will not be another lecture, okay? There will be a succinct question, and the answer will be according to. And we're gonna also invite Bia to help us get the answers. I already have 2 questions from people that could not make it here today. However, they sent me the questions. And the first question would be, when you have tried all you can do to make a suicidal change his or her mind, and yet you are not able to persuade them not to commit the suicide, what to do? What else is left?
If the person has tried everything. One thing also to consider that what we control, what we do not control. So 3 things that we do not control: results, time, and the action of the other person. Every time they try to control one of them, anxiety comes up. So telling us that we're going against the nature law. So anxiety is good in terms of to let us know that we're going against the nature law. So in this case, only God that's omnipotent. So we can do our best to share the best as we can to explain what we happen here today. But even that the person decided to do it, the person has the free will. Of course, we can explore our abilities, we can explore somebody else's ability, how to, convey the person, but it still the decision remains to the other person.
The next question is, how can the spiritist be sure of the suffering that awaits the suicidal in hell?
I think we know, Spiritism shows us that every action has a reaction. We come back to make up for the mistakes of our past lives, and suicide is one of those mistakes that we make. And if we do make it, and it's a pretty big mistake, if we do make it, we're going to have to make up for it, and it's not going to be easy. So I think knowing that, and knowing that all of our actions have that reaction, and we need to make up for all of our mistakes, suicide is one of those, and we'll have to struggle through that, but we will overcome it.
Can I just mention something? And also the spirits themselves came with so many messages showing what happened with them after life. And you can see that on the book Heaven and Hell, on the part of the suicides. I think what Spiritism brings, we always need to remind ourselves, is a doctrine of the spirits, not the incarnate human beings. So they always show to us what's going to happen regarding consequences in so many different levels. And it's important for us to have the humility to read and see what is there for us to learn from them. Yeah?
There is another question here. In legal terms, is there any charge against those who attempt suicide?
I'm not sure, Andre, I'm sorry. I'm not sure exactly which counties, but certain counties, you are charged legally if you attempt, and then you don't succeed. The reason being is because it's very costly to deal with someone who killed themselves. It costs the city money. In the jail system, for example, the officers did a very good job in keeping the place safe. Now, were they really concerned with the well-being of the inmates? Not necessarily. It's just because if an inmate got hurt, and if an officer got hurt while trying to break up a fight, then they had to send everybody to the hospital. And that will cost the county lots of money. So anything that has to do with, money and public money, yes, there is a tendency to, to create a system of checks and balance in order to avoid a misuse of public funds.
And in recently weeks, I think 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the suicide here. Actually, exactly on the September 11th, the Sunday, September 11th, I was talking about those September 11th itself, right? The tragedy, the massive death. And then the week after, I was talking about the suicide as well. And I researched a little bit, and in New Jersey yes, you're in trouble if you try to kill yourself, not only in certain counties, but the whole state. And some states are different. In some states, there's nothing. You can kill yourself as many times as you are capable of. In other states, like in New Jersey, if you attempt against your life and you don't manage to kill yourself, you are a failed suicide, you're in trouble. Because now you owe to the state of New Jersey some responsibility, some liability. You try to kill somebody, even if that somebody is yourself. So yes, you're in trouble.
I'm reading here also about some countries. Bahamas, Bangladesh, Guyana, and Kenya.
Yeah, some other countries as well, they follow the same way of thought. Questions?
I have a question. About those states, and about some states that is okay for the person to end their life in case they are in terminal ill. How the responsibility of the state to be okay with that, or doctors who give the injections or so on.
On the legal aspect, I don't know. On the moral aspect, if you have a chance to survive, you're going through a trial, and in order to try to abbreviate or not have the strength to go to the trial, and then you accept, and then you're going against the nature laws. So it's a suicide. An idea that I also want our colleagues to talk as well. The person is 200 years old, I'm going to the other extreme, and force the body to continue going, just to have the body, the physical body there with the pumping, and that's the other extreme. That's you want to force something to happen, like a return to the body just to keep the body going. So that's also, it's not right. But I would like to pass it to Julio to make a comment of that.
Yeah, I think just on that last point that you're mentioning, I think it's important to remember in a case of a terminal illness, if someone really has tried all the medicine that they can, all that's possible, but they're still really close to death. A lot of people want to hold them, but we also have to remember that when it's people's time, it is their time, and we have to, like Julia was mentioning before, we have to let them go, and we have to continue living so that they can be better. So right in a point where it's really no other option, it's important for us to pray so that they can peacefully go rather than trying to hold them, here at 200 years old, like Priscilla said.
We're just speaking extreme to really understand the other side.
This is a complex question because there are many scenarios. There is the scenario of the individual who is old, not terminally ill, but says enough is enough. I want to get an injection. Then there are the cases of those who are terminally ill, but they do not want to be connected in any machines. They just want to go home and die peacefully. Each of these cases, it will be like a lecture itself that we have to delve into the intricacies of each situation. But the bottom line of the Spiritist philosophy is that you should never expedite your return. Reason being is because your time here in the physical flesh has a spiritual purpose. And if you expedite that process by artificial means, then you could be losing very important lessons. Not only that, but you could be regressing altogether. You know, think for a moment of you making we always have to return to money because it's easier to explain when it comes to money. Think that you have paid all of your mortgage monthly payments. Now it's up to you're up to the 3 last payments, but then you decide not to pay them. You know, are you going to receive, you know, the letter that says, you know, house paid in full? But what's going to happen? It's going to accrue more interest. You might even lose the house to begin with because you never made those 3 less payments. So that's the rule of thumb. We're not saying that if someone's connected with the machines, you should be connected forever and live forever. Is that person right to say, I do not want to be connected in any machine? That's not expediting things. That's not allowing science to prolong suffering, which is different. This is why I said it's delicate, because sometimes you have families who sees the individual who is like a vegetable, and now the person has all these tubes connected in them. And the person is in a lot of pain. They want to go. They do not want to stay like this. But the family says, no, we want to keep you alive. For selfish reasons. You know, I don't want you to go. Sometimes even for financial reasons. Because I worked in hospice, and then the family was getting a check at their house. And they wanted to keep the individual alive. Because if they would die, then the check would stop coming. So you had all these different situations. But the rule of thumb is, you never expedite anything. You know, when to disconnect the machine, if this is a young person who's 20 years old and got into a car accident. You know, these are very different scenarios. And now they're there. Well, if the individual's brain is functioning, that means, you know, this person can regain their consciousness and move forward. Let's say, you know, there is a machine that's actually making the heart pump, you know, the lungs breathe. Yes, let's keep that individual connected. But if that person is brain dead and all the other organs are functioning, then it's okay to disconnect the machines, because the seat of the soul is not functioning, which is the brain. Very hard decisions. You only can measure how tough they are when you are in the situation yourself. But these are the suggestions. I had people calling me and says, Julio, this is the condition of my wife. What should I do? Should I disconnect the machines or not?
Thank you.
We have 2 more questions here.
Do you mind if I just one quick story? I had a friend. That would happen recently. He used to work with me at the work that I work for, and we worked together for a long period of time. And then one day I received a phone call that he was not feeling good. He went to the hospital, and after going to the hospital, did a lot of scans and tests, and then couldn't find it. I don't remember exactly what they found, but something in his brain was not working well. And then he stayed in the hospital. 2 weeks later, he lost communication, he lost everything. And he was in the machine. It was like happening so quick. And then I went to visit him. And then he was in the machine, and he couldn't do anything, just the machine was there. So I opened the gospel, and I read the gospel. And after we finished, we talking about the reflection, what we read about, and then we did a prayer. When I opened my eyes, he had tears on his eyes. When I look at it, it really, and then touched profoundly on me. And then I kiss him, I stay a little bit more with him, I explained about the life after that I know that he could hear me. He just surrounding, look for his guardian angel, and but he doesn't just flow, just understand, and he was fighting, but not in a good fight, was in a desperate mood. So we prayed, I kissed him, and I left. And then 2 days later, he passed away. So those moments that I just came to my mind to share that with you, because in some point he was still feeling the Spirit was there, listen to prayer, stay with him, probably just the tears that was able to come out, he couldn't move it in the body anymore. But maybe it was enough for him to naturally, he passed away. Just share, this situation that we lived recently. That was probably like 3 or 4 months ago.
The next question is, what message do you have for a person who is contemplating suicide?
Don't do it.
Just not worth it.
Be would like to.
No, I agree. I think you said it all. But I think, along with don't do it, I think there's people that can help you. I know, like, sometimes it might seem like someone doesn't have people, but, like, a Sam through a parent, a friend, so I think try and go to someone. Therapy, as we've mentioned earlier, this event, so, yeah.
Can I say something? I have many friends in New York that think about to commit suicide weekly basis over the years since I'm in the center. And I remember Angelita, one of my dear friends, she said that Gilson, they live in a very fine thread, and give your drop every time you can. And I think it's be there in the phone call when they call you, when they come to intuition, pray for them. If you can go to cook something, to prepare something, because you cannot impose on them your will. You want them survive. We know the consequence that might happen with them in case they do it. But our part is just to love in according of our discernment and our feelings. And that's so unique, so individual. What I learned, at least from me, I'm so grateful that none of my friends who always talk about suicide didn't commit until now. It doesn't mean that's not going to happen today. But I think everyone can give your little drop. And the other thing I can say, I have a very dear friend from the center who they were Spiritists. He is Spiritist. They were born Spiritist, and his sister committed suicide. She lives in Brazil, he lives in the United States. I remember I saw her only once, and I spent a long time with her 1 year prior to that, walking around in Manhattan with her and her mother. In that month where she committed suicide, 1 month prior to that, they were coming to Manhattan, to New York. They were living in the United States, in Brazil. And she said, I want to see you. I didn't give the time. And I know from my personal experience, every time somebody comes to visit from someplace else, at least in New York, I always try to do my best, even if it's 1 hour, 2 hours of them. Because it might be the last time. And I felt really sad that I didn't do my drop at that time. So let's try to do our drops, because you don't know how much impact can cause on someone's life. But love can do things that you cannot even imagine. Jesus needs only 3 years to leave a legacy for all humanity. We can do a lot in 1 minute, 1 hour of our time, yeah?
Thank you.
Just one comment on that. That goes along with what you said. There's one passage from Jesus that I really love. It's in Matthew 11. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burned, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So that's the message from Jesus. And inviting us, when you get into those trials, that situation that we all go through it, because it's part of our means to evolve. It's connect with Jesus, represent the love. Just connect what you mentioned out there. Because learning from Jesus, what he has done, learning about the nature laws, part of the knowledge that Julio brought it in, this combination, it's building the resilient, building to understand and calm our heart. The final comments on Julie mentioned about the peace. You can be on the eye of the hurricane, but if you're following the nature laws, doing what's supposed to be done, you feel peace inside. You feel this connection. It's hard? Yes. Tears sometimes comes down? Yes. But you keep moving. Suddenly, take this energy of love in our heart, it kind of dissolves that pain. Little by little. It could be a drop of the bird in the beginning of Julian's lecture. But it comes right in the heart, the love. And that's the only energy, only one energy. The knowledge is going to bring us to connect to the love, but that's the only energy that's going to heal the pain. And that's the message that Jesus invites us to. When you feel burdened, connect to him.
Thank you. The next question is a kind of emergency room of the soul, and we can even talk a little bit more about that with who is asking this question. But let's hear you guys, right? My brother calls me saying that he's going to kill himself and ask me to take care of his son. What should I do? What should I do?
One thing that we're just reflecting here. Many people contemplate the suicide because doesn't know the effect of it. Think that it's a good solution, but it's a false solution. Because it thinks that we kill the body, everything goes away. And it's not. It just amplifies the situation. So as sharing here some reflection is share with this person the consequence of taking the life, or taking the life of the body. Because then you're going to realize it's not a good solution. Because the person is trying to find a solution for the trouble that's going through it. And if you can see, try to find, please help the other one here that's going to be alone. So that's the good intention. But good intention doesn't mean that's in the right direction. So continue the idea of resolving the issue, but looking for a different solution, because that is not a solution. And many people doesn't know the consequence of taking their life out.
Excuse me?
It's
Oh, sorry. Okay, right. No, I'm gonna be quick. What if she can do it? Pray for him. That's it. Pray for him.
Pray for him.
Yes.
Is what we can do,
She
right?
can do.
She can do.
Andre, what people who are contemplating suicide, what they should realize is that first, it's a very selfish thing to do. If he is concerned about the well-being of his son, he should know that he's going to destroy the life of his son by doing this. there is evidence that he's concerned for his son because he's asking his sister, take care of the son. So if you're concerned for your son will spend the rest of his life thinking that he was not worth enough for you to stay alive. That's what you're going to tell your son with these gestures. It's very selfish. You're thinking only of your pain, and you're not thinking of the pain of the entire family. Because those who stay behind, this person's mother, sister, grandmother, cousin, they will spend the rest of their existence thinking to themselves, what could you have done to avoid this from happening? So not only they're destroying their life, they're destroying the life of other people. And then it goes back to everything that Marcelo said. He's not getting rid of the pain, he's multiplying the pain. In practical terms, he should check himself to a local hospital. Go there in the emergency room and says, listen, I'm feeling suicidal. And then they will keep him at the hospital. That's the secret words you have to say in the emergency room. I feel I want to take my own life. They're going to ask you questions. Do you have a specific plan? And then you state the specific plan. By law, the hospital has to keep you. And then you stay there and you take medication. And by the way, what I was saying in the lecture about medication, I'm not saying medication is bad. All I'm saying is that medication, it's not the entire solution. It's a combination of solution because it's a multi-factor problem that needs a multi-factor solution as well. And people sometimes, they get the illusion that by just taking this pill, the chemical balance will now be balanced and I will no longer experience depression. That's not the way it goes, because we have to solve the cause of the problem. In this particular example, I have no idea why he's feeling this way, but he sounds pretty desperate. In practical terms, check yourself into a hospital, and please understand that if you do this, your son will think that he's worthless because you did not have the courage to stay in the body, to take care of himself.
Yeah, not only that, sometimes the kids think that the problem was him when his father killed himself. They felt the pain.
I love what Julia said because we had a case where someone lost. I love what Julia said. Maybe I would use in a different way how to say that, but there was a case of a friend of us. Her parents passed away together, like in a very sudden death, and she was desperate. And we went to do a gospel at home, in their home, and she's American. She opened the gospel. Honor your father and your mother. I said, oh my God, this person just lost her parents and now they're talking about honoring. But there was someone so inspired in the group. The person said, what's the best way to honor your parents? What would be the highest wish to make them joy for right now if you believe that life goes on? To be happy. To be healthy, to be prosperous, to take care of my family, to take care of my children, that's their grandchildren. And then said, do it. If you want to honor your parents, even though you're grieving now because it's so painful the way it happened, take good care of yourself, because this is the highest gift you can let for them. So think about this father, and I love it because our perception was so fast. It got to that he likes his son. He loves his son. If you focus on the love that he has as a father for his son and how important is for the future well-being of this kid, the presence of his father, that might be the aim to continue his life. Again, goes back to Viktor Frankl wrote in the book, Men in Search of Meaning, is that the right name? You need to have a higher purpose. You need to have a purpose. And it seems that this father still loves his son so much that might be the purpose to continue living. And if you can empower that, that's great. I never thought about that. Thank you, Julie.
Let me just emphasize now the comments that our friend said there. Prayer, it's very important because it helps us to connect the energy of love.
Any more questions? Answers? Comments?
Yes, Sandra. Last comment. So, in regards to medication, so there was this group of psychiatrists who went to Cambodia to teach psychiatrists there about medication. And after explaining, about the serotonin level, they say, you know what, we have antidepressants here. So what are they? And they thought it's going to be some sort of a plant, a root. And they say, no, you see that patient over there? He almost killed himself. Well, we found we found out that he liked to work with cows. So we found him a job, work with cows. So the cows, it's his antidepressants. So in that regard, our friend Dulcie, she told us in one of these events that this is how she felt because of her family. So this is Dulcie's antidepressant.
Yes, yes.
Any more questions? No? All right. So we came to the end of this 11th annual workshop of suicide prevention. And that's not all.
And this beautiful Spirit Center, thank you so much for hosting us these events. And thank you, Diaz, for hosting us next year. And thank you for us to be a family, right? Because alone we cannot do anything. Thank you, Julio, for every year make all the sacrifices to be here. It's our car chef. No matter what happens, he comes to do the lecture. And without these gatherers, we're not able to help ourselves because we're learning so much here, much less help somebody else. So we hope that these families continue to grow. So more and more, we help those around us and elsewhere. Thank you for the beautiful work that you put together. Thank you.
Not only a pleasure, but a big honor to us. In the name of the Read and Grow and the Spiritism group Path of Light, we really appreciate to have you all here. Thank you very much for your presence. And we come to the end. Now we have to take our thoughts to our Father once again and thank for all this. And I'd like to ask a very special favor to my dear cousin in love, in heart, cousin in heart. Is there such a thing in cousin in heart? Okay. To say the final prayer to us.
So all these reflect that we had today. I'd like to invite all of us to join, connecting our mind, our heart. First feeling this vibration of the spirit realm touching our heart. And we thank them to support us, to being with us, our guardian angels, that help us to accomplish our mission in the good time and the difficult times, and feeling this love that they have for us and the love that we have for ourselves. Gratitude for being here today, listening our friends who brings us courage, will, happiness, to look at life in a different way. It's hard and beautiful. And we know the happiness will come to all of the struggles. It's just a ladder to get there. And with this vibration and reflect of our friend that shared his life in a book, our friend Camilo Castelo Branco, that shared his life after death, after committing suicide. We extend our love to him and all of them that unfortunately follow his attitude, that all of them can feel the love, the will to raise the eyes to God and be able to overcome the struggle and continue the life. And also for our friends that he incarnate that's going through a difficult time, when their heart gets some pain, struggles, sometimes we don't know direction to go, that this vibration can embrace them, that there's vision clears, that there's will continue to see the beautiful life that God created to all of us. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank the High Spirit for the amount of effort that you have done to help all of us here. So be it. Would like to invite all of you to come here in front to take a picture.
Aí, vai ficar fofinha.
Estamos falando aqui. Não, vamos primeiro fotografar, depois eu volto, prometo.
Corre.
Sorria todo mundo. Mensagem bem linda aqui do centro para todas as pessoas que estão pensantes na vida hoje.
E eu acho que não colocou o temporizador.
Sorri, hein, pessoal?
You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer or fall, all you've got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah. Now you've got a friend. If the sky